Hey, me again. Just want to do a quick little video on some high and low gears that I got from a company called arceUrotrade.co.uk. I'll put a link up in the video so you guys can see where I got them from. But they're basically for a mini lathe, a Chinese mini lathe. When you're operating a Chinese mini lathe, you don't want to basically change from high to low when the actual lathe is in operation, meaning going round. If you do, you're going to do what I did and shear off all the teeth off of your gear. And you can see they're only plastic, so they don't last very long. I don't know if you can see this, but all the teeth on one side on the larger end of the gear has been sheared off. All the gears. Both gears were damaged, but luckily for about £30 I was able to buy a replacement gear set from this company, and these are made of metal. I don't know in terms of noise if it's going to be any louder with these, but it certainly will last a lot longer. So it's funny because the factory ones come like this, all in one piece. You've got the lower one and the big one all stuck together, but the replacement come in 3 sections. So you've got your larger cog here, you've got your smaller one, and then you've got this divider ring, the spacer that goes in between. So the way this would fit on the actual spindle, you'd have your spindle. First of all, you put your plastic spacer in. Would have been nice if they were metal as well, but put your plastic spacer in, and then you take your smaller cog that goes on like this. Yeah. Take your spacer, this time it's metal, goes on like that. And take your larger ring or gear, that slides on like that. And then finally you take your final spacer, which fits on, and it goes over like this. So you can see don't know if you can see that, but that's the factory one. There's the new one. Yeah. You can see how it replaces it. Obviously, when you're going to install it onto the actual lathe, you're going to want to put the spindle through the housing first, then put this gear on, push the spindle in a little bit more, put the spacer on, and finally this larger one and that end spacer there, the plastic one, and then push it all the way through. Obviously once you push it all the way through, you'll carry on as normal and construct the lathe. I could try and attach another video to this video to show you how I'm going to do that. Finally, once you've got this bigger these gears onto the actual spindle, you're going to want to install the actual high-low gear, which goes onto this selector here. So what happens is you have your lever, and it basically moves this cog backwards and forwards in order to select gear. As I said, I'll try and make another video and connect it onto this video if I can. I don't have a video editing software yet, just a mobile phone, so see how we get on. Okay, so what I've done is I've put the smaller gear on and I've put the spacer on. Now that allows me to take the spindle, fit it through the lathe, through the housing. Okay, you can put it through the housing like this. And before you push that all the way through, you're going to want to put the larger gear in through the housing like this. It gets a little bit awkward, so I might need to switch the video off and do this. So if you can imagine, the spindle will go through that ring. Don't forget to line up the key, and before you push it all together using a press, you're going to have to fit this spacer in as well. Just after that gear goes the spacer. Then you're going to use a press and push the spindle all the way in, Don't forget to grease it up as well a little bit. I'm just going to put the video on hold right now and go and do that and come back to you. Okay, don't know if you could see that, but pressed it into place, and what I'm going to do is put a hell of a lot of grease in there just to keep the gears lubricated and quiet. The bigger gear here goes on the back of the housing, okay, and the smaller one goes where the chuck is, so if anyone's taking it apart they know which order it goes in, okay. Okay, once you've got your gear in place and all greased up, you're going to want to put your high-low selector gear in, and you're going to want to take the pin or shaft, whatever you want to call it, that goes in like this on this side. The gear with the larger end facing the chuck, okay, and press it in place and put the securing clips on to hold it in line, okay. Okay, the high-low gear is in. As you can see, as you turn this, it disengages and engages a higher or a lower gear. One thing I'll warn you guys is when you first take this off, there's this little screw here, and underneath there you got a ball bearing. Now what happened was, this screw was all the way down like this, and there's a whole load of dirt there inside this hole, so I couldn't see there was a screw there. And what I did in order to get these gears off was undone this screw here and pulled the selector out. But unknown to me at the time was there was a ball bearing that sat underneath this screw, and I'd actually lost that ball bearing now, so I'm gonna have to order up another ball bearing before I can finish off the video. So hopefully I'll catch up with you guys soon. I've basically gone ahead of time and just done some prep work. I can't get this finished off until I receive that ball bearing, but I've gone and assembled all the timing wheel on there, the crank sensor, and put the belt on underneath. And you can see by, sorry, it's a little bit difficult changing the gears with one hand, but that's for forward and reverse. And what you'll notice that when this is up, this goes clockwise, and then when you switch it all the way to the bottom, it should go anti-clockwise. And this pulley here basically controls the feed rod, or turns the feed rod, shall I say, and allows you to feed the carbide cutting instruments when you're turning some aluminium down or whatever you're doing, or cutting thread. Basically allows you to cut forward and backwards. And if you put it into the middle here, it just spins freely, and you can see that these gears are not turning now. I hope that's going to be of help to anybody that's doing the same thing as me. You can certainly see the all the gears on there, and it'll help you put yours back together again when you're doing yours. Alright. Okay, managed to find a ball bearing for the high-low selector, and just gonna get that in there. So put the ball bearing in. Spring goes in next. I don't know if you can see that, but the spring will go in next. And finally, you got a grub screw. It's difficult to do these things when you're recording, so you have to bear with me. Sorry about the picture quality. So that's in there. Give that a good old tighten. Okay, the ball bearing is in now. What I'd recommend, when you guys are gonna put the motor on, put this through the motor on first. Put this through the pulley on the motor first before you bolt this down, because if you bolt this down first, you're not gonna be able to put this pulley through the this belt through the pulley for the belt, because I don't know if you can see that there's not much light. There's not much space between the pulley and the frame of the lathe here, so you need to have the motor loose a little bit, and you need to put this through here first before you do the 4 Allen key bolts up on either corner, otherwise you're going to have difficulty getting that belt on. So I'm going to go ahead and put that on now and see how we get on. Okay, the belt is on the motor now. The motor is still loose, but one thing I want to show you to make sure your gears last a long time is when you go to fix this onto the lathe, make sure these gears are perfectly lined up, because if they're not, you're going to have a lot more force on one side of the actual pulley, and in the long run they're going to snap or shear off. You can see that you can slightly move this backwards and forwards, just with your hand slightly. Just make sure it's lined up perfectly before you go and put the 2 bolts in under here and here. These bolts here, they look like 9 or 8 millimeter bolts. They go underneath here. You use an Allen key to tighten them up. So make sure these are all lined up before you do these, okay? When adjusting the tension on the belt, you want to be able to twist it and it shouldn't feel tight, okay? At the same time, it shouldn't feel loose. If you do need to make adjustments, you do so with these screws here underneath the on top of the motor, shall I say. Okay, if we have a you adjust it, and then you have a locking nut on the top which you turn and lock the screw. Okay, just going to start connecting the earths onto the actual lathe and get the actual controls all wired up. What you're going to notice is that my wiring is a little bit different because I've took off the safety switch, which normally screws on here and it comes down, and you've got to prospect that shields you from anything that breaks or flicks off. Well, because I've got a 4-inch chuck on here, you know, whenever I had that on, it kept basically hitting the shield, so I took it off and it was just like a little switch that was left there. I decided to get rid of it because I don't use it anyway and it just simplifies things. Okay, that switch that I was talking about is this. I've took it out and wrapped it all up, but you had a switch on here with the prospects, and you open it up, you would cut the power off, and if you closed it, the power will come back on. All it was doing was connecting these two pins. I don't know if you can see it. So you had this blue wire coming from the motor, and it went there, and then you had this blue wire from the switch, went there. Then you had the two browns that were bridged together. So all it was doing was basically connecting these two wires together. So what I done was I disconnected the brown and the blue, put a connector on there, goes on there, goes on there, and that's it. Basically that does away with this switch. It's useless anyway, it doesn't work with a 4-inch chuck. It's up to you if you want to do it, it's for safety. I don't use it much, so I've decided to get rid of it. Okay, you got the two wires that come from the speed sensor. It tells you how fast the motor's turning. Okay, it connects onto here. Like so. Then you got this lead here, that's from the motor, that connects up onto the orange connector down there. It's not the proper socket, to be honest with you, but that's what it came with. I remember that's where it came from, so we're going to connect it back up onto there. Just so you guys can see which lathe it is that I'm using. It's the CJ18A Mini Lathe from Amadale, London. It's a good lathe. Does what it's supposed to. Could do with a little bit more torque, but you get what you pay for. If you've got any tie wraps, it's a good idea to tie wrap these wires away from all these gears. The last thing you want is for one of these gears here, one of these wires to get caught up in any of these gears. So if you've got any tie wraps, use them, wrap these wires up, keep them away from any moving parts. Okay, you could get electric shock, you could blow the lathe up. It's not a good idea.